we are going to be talking about how Russian people react to interracial families. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel AfroLev, roaring truths to preserve your pretty voice. And today, we are going to be talking about how Russian people react to interracial families. We're going to be breaking this down into different sections. I want to talk about how they generally react to seeing you in public, what their view is when they see interracial children, and generally what it means to be an interracial couple in Russia and an interracial family. I am Andy, the Afrolev, and I am a Zimbabwean living here in Russia, Moscow, and I am married to a Russian woman. And it has been an interesting time here because I feel like a lot of the stereotypes which I heard before moving to Russia have not really been the case when I got here. Of course, there are many different forms of reactions that I get from having a Russian wife and being a black man, and also walking around with my mother in law as we find something fun to do as a family. The general feeling when I walk with my family as a black man and, having a Russian wife and a Russian mother in law and a Russian grandma is basically a lack of attention. I'm in Moscow, so a lot of people don't really care when they see this. It's kind of just like, oh, there's a black guy with the Russian wife. We have a lot of those. It's not something that is unbelievable. It's not something that makes people drop their jaw and lose their mind. It's just something that is usual. I hold my wife's hand down the street. No one really cares. In terms of Russian people, at least. Russian people generally do not show a lot of their emotions. So maybe they might be something that they're holding deep inside, some hatred. But they don't express it outwardly because Russian people are generally good at keeping to themselves, which is something people from my country are good at as well. You know, the people that just look at something they don't like, but then they talk about it behind closed doors. I guess Russian people are pretty stone-faced, so you won't really see if they disagree with it or not. But the general thing is her friends are very supportive of our relationship, very supportive about the idea. The idea of mixed kids in Russia is something that people really, really like. There are a lot of people that are so amazed by the idea of a mixed Russian kid, a mixed race kid, African Russian kid. So the kid factor is something that people are just blown away by. They think that mixed kids are extremely beautiful, which I think in most cases they are. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. You're connecting two races together. And generally, I think a lot of people even just get into interracial relationships just to have a mixed kid. Thankfully, that's not the situation with my wife and I. um, but of course, we want a beautiful child down the line. But another thing is that there are people that, of course, might find it strange or out of the norm. I have garnered a few awkward stares or like slight confusion, but it's rare. And the beauty of it is it's something that is kept inside. I've more have seen people being extremely aggressive when it's online because I guess anybody has the ability to type any comment or anything that's on their mind, which I don't mind because when you are insulted online or people are coming at you online, it's a lot different to people sort of heckling you in the street. So in terms of being surrounded by Russian people that disagree with that, I've never really encountered that in brute force. In fact, the only people that found that awkward are the other foreigners in Russia. um, Especially the Asians that come into Russia. I think they find it pretty strange that I'm with a Russian woman because I guess the ideology and the mindset is that it's virtually impossible for a Russian person to be with anybody that is dark skinned, which is not the case, as you can see, or as you can't see. Maybe I look like I'm completely pale And I remember yesterday I was actually in the elevator and I had a chat with a delivery guy. He was a foreigner. And I told him that my wife is Russian, and he was just there wide eyed for like 2 minutes straight because he just can't believe it. But this doesn't mean that there isn't opposition of Russian people that do not find interracial relationships good, you know? There are these chat groups, there are these people that will comment on my posts like, oh my God, your wife isn't inkwell because apparently dating a black guy on African is terrible and you're lowering your standards, etc. You do have those people that are prevalent on my page. But then it's the same thing with my people too. You have people that comment online when they see one of our own with an American or one of our own with a white woman, and then they're like, oh my God, you're leaving us behind. People are always going to have their own opinion. But I feel like being an interracial family in Russia is pretty comfortable. And believe it or not, some people are actually extremely envious of our family. Yeah, because not every parent is going to agree with their child marrying somebody from a different country. Doesn't matter if they're black, African, or whatever. Some families are extremely traditional. And some women would definitely love to date people from different countries, but they don't get the opportunity. So some people are actually envious of a relationship. They're like, wow, it's so cool how you guys combine. It must be so interesting. And a lot of my friends ask so many questions because they're curious. How does this work? And then, of course, you have the other side of the spectrum. There are people that just disagree with mixing completely. And I have always said this on my channel. I have nothing against people that think that they should stay with their own kind, as they say, or should stay with people that are from the same country. I have no hatred towards them. I guess the only problem I have is when somebody tries to rewire my relationship. It's like, no, you don't get a say. Not even my friends have a say in some of the basic things in my relationship that have nothing to do with our race, let alone even giving advice, because that's my relationship. And I'm very stern about that. So a stranger also trying to advise me to stay away from a Russian woman or my Russian woman would obviously be something that I wouldn't take on the chin. But for some people in Russia, they don't believe in it. They want to be with their own kind. They want to be with their own kind. They want to have a Russian wife, a Russian husband. They don't want to mix and match. And that's fine. Some people will not approve of us. Some people might even be disgusted. It happens. You can't really look into people's minds and you can't derive exactly how everybody in the street is feeling. But I can comfortably say, when I walk outside and I hold my wife's hand, I'm not going to get attacked, or I'm not going to feel like I'm in danger, or we're not going to have to cross the other side of the street because some weirdo is going to stab us for being an interracial couple or being an interracial family. And even with my wife's grandmother, she boasts about me to her friends. Old women. And it's funny because people always say this thing about Soviet people, how Soviet people are the most racist people ever, which is not true. It is absolute garbage. I feel like Soviet people are actually more accepting than the modern day people we have today. They have this mindset of just looking at people for who they are, the goodness within them. And she basically gloats about me to her friends, Granddaughter being married to an African guy who's amazing. And she shares pictures of my nephew who she loves to bits. And her friends are like, he's so cute. He's so adorable. So in terms of people we actually care about, the reception is perfect. There's no negativity whatsoever. In terms of people outside, I could actually care less. There are going to be people on this video right now that are going to be telling me some of the most ridiculous things about what they classify as the right relationship or which race you should date. That doesn't affect me. But in terms of the people that are most important beside us, I feel like I don't even feel like I'm in an interracial relationship. I just have to make these videos for you guys because you ask these questions. So I'm always happy to oblige. And that's basically how it is. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, please like, subscribe, and give me other ideas of stuff that you'd like to know. I'm just going through all your comments and I'm making these videos so that I can tell you how it is to be an African here in Russia. And as always, we are roaring truths to preserve your pretty voice. Ciao.